Somebody open up this damn government. Eugene Mulero knows what I'm getting out of here.
Nobody's home.
Yeah, Dave, you want to do the introduction?
To the guy who's not here?
Yeah, he's here.
Eugene Mulero is joining us on the program, our dear friend from Transport Topics, and got a lot to talk about here this morning. And we have a new ATA chairman, huh?
Yeah, that's right. From Groendyke Transport out of Oklahoma. His name is Greg Hodgen. He is the CEO. He's been with the company for about 25 years and newly installed in October or last month. And among the things on his priorities, let me say that again, his to-do list is to work with Congress, work with Washington lawmakers on highway funding. But of course, the government has to be open for him to be able to do that.
You wrote an article about him, and the title is Groendyke's Greg Hodgen aims to be trucking's superhero. And when you read the story, you realize, no, wait a minute, we're talking real superheroes, Aquaman and Batman and Superman and all of them men, huh? It's kind of a very unique approach.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I spent half a week with him. I got to know him, and he's a very serious business person. He's a very serious executive. He does have a huge affinity, passion for comic books, and he is really seeks a lot of guidance in the story of Superman and the DC Comics world. And he has this dichotomy that on one hand, you know, he is a very, focused, direct CEO, whereas his management style is adopted by some of the lessons of Superman and the Justice League for those people who know the comic book world. And I even told him, I said, hey, you're talking a lot about this. I'm interested in making this part of your profile. And he's like, please do, talk about it because I'm all about it. And his office, he has a lot of decor about, superhero Superman, not only DC Comics, but also the Marvel universe with, Iron Man and the different characters. And it's a tool that he uses to be somewhat tongue-in-cheek with his leadership team and his colleagues. So to work seriously, but not to take themselves too seriously, bring some levity to the workforce, to his executive team, and also to really enhance the collaboration, the spirit of teamwork that he continues to point to, the Justice League. So it's really a character, a profile that really examines the complexities of corporate America and how he is able to tap to pop culture, to get some lessons and share that with not only his colleagues, but also the industry.
Telling your story is one of the most important things you can do. In fact, Jimmy Mack uses that expression all the time. In fact, we just had Keith Wan on, the creator of the Truck On app. He says, hey, next time you come on, we're gonna have you on for longer, and we want to hear your story, tell your story. One of the things that trucking has not done at large over the last 20 years is really maybe 30 years, tell the story of how much we have already done to improve the atmosphere, to improve the air we breathe. I know in the story you point out that Greg says, it takes 60 trucks today to put out the same amount of pollution that one truck did in, 1988 or something like that. So we have these remarkable success stories that have been kept under the bushel or under the basket in the biblical term. And he is aiming to do that. That's going to have some impact, I think, huh?
Yeah, he already in Oklahoma, his company is already reminding the industry, the local industry and stakeholders about the environmental advancements as well as economic contributions of his company, the industry, and it's a message that with ATA, he is looking to continue to expand that message. He has a very ambitious agenda early next year of visiting Washington, meeting with members of Congress, meeting with members of the Trump administration to remind them about these contributions, these advancements in emissions, the concerns about transitioning to all electric vehicles, what he calls aggressive timelines to do that. And as you look at how Congress next year is going to be putting together a very comprehensive, massive, multi-year highway policy bill, the new ATA chairman as well as his industry colleagues want to be a part. They plan to be a part of that conversation, that policy-making process next year to ensure that industry priorities, trucking priorities are addressed, are advanced, adopted, and it's not limited to highway funding and emissions. It's also, concerns about, lack of truck parking, recruitment and retention efforts. So it's all of the above portfolio that he, with his fellow stakeholders, really plan to share and advance in Washington next year.
By the way, guys, we're joined by senior reporter and editor at Transport Topics, Eugene Mulero, and of course, he covers a whole bunch of stuff. He's also co-authored From Rodeo to TDC, A History of the National Truck Driving Championships and National Step Van Driving Championships, first edition. Before he actually was over at TT, he worked for E&E News, CQ Roll Call, and the Arizona Republic. He is a professor of professional practice at George Mason University. But the big question is, do they got it open? Is it open? Are they open for business, Eugene? Because it sounds like 8 senators from the other side actually crossed the aisle. Are we there yet?
We are really approaching the finish line. It does look like the 8 U.S. Democratic senators will continue to align with the Senate Republican majority to open that government probably as early as, if not tonight, sometime tomorrow, the latest Wednesday. But the caveat there, Jimmy, is that these 8 Democratic senators do have to stay together, and already they are receiving immense pushback from some members of their caucus, familiar faces like Senator Bernie Sanders and others. So we are witnessing, Jimmy, really a splintering of the Democratic Party and the Senate on Capitol Hill over this shutdown. With that said, it does look like we're 90 to 95% there on reopening the government. But as you know, Jimmy, all things in Washington is not done until it's done. So everybody's like all eyes on Washington right now.
Yeah, and despite the House of Representatives Speaker doing his best attempt to put a positive spin on it or make it seem like a big nothing burger, let's be real. The events in New Jersey, Virginia, forget about the city of New York. That's an entirely different animal. But smaller local elections in Georgia and Mississippi, a lot of things gave a lot of people pause, and there are a lot of people with a D behind their name right now going, let's have a discussion about leverage for a second here. So there you go. That's the other dynamic that's playing its way through. Is 8 enough? I don't know the math here. Does 8 get him there? 8 gets him to 60? It's 52.
Yeah,
it's
so
52-48, and so it takes 8 senators to get them to 60. The other thing I wanted to ask you about that as well, the pushback they are getting, but these 8 senators are also maybe speaking for other ones who aren't going to cast that vote regardless, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have the 8 do represent the moderate wing of the Senate Democrats, and they are acting on behalf of probably 24 of their colleagues. These 8 are unique in that 2 of them are not seeking re-election, and then the 6 remaining are in states that are purple or that favored, President Trump. So they themselves are in a very tough dynamics politically, especially since they're vying for re-election. So it's they have splintered from the party. It's actually very worth noting that the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has been voting no. He voted no last night on reopening the government in this scenario, and he's expected to continue to be a no. So if you look at the politics there, Jimmy is, he is really playing to, the pressures of that progressive side of his caucus, especially as he is considering a re-election bid that will likely be against a primary bid against a very progressive member of the House, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So he has his own set of political dynamics going on, and all of this is playing, before the U.S. Senate. And with that said, Congress, I don't have to tell anybody, they're getting a lot of pressure from every stakeholder, the aviation industry, social safety net, food stamp recipients. So there's a lot of pressure on reopening the government, and these 8 Democrats do look like they're going to, as of right now, hold the line to work with Republicans to do that.
Yeah, and on the flip side of the equation, you have a certain lady from Georgia who nobody in a million years would actually argue for the other side, and she's doing that right now. So the world has gone topsy-turvy, but that's all the time we have for Eugene Mulero, who, of course, is not only a reporter, but a senior editor at Transport Topics. We're always thrilled to have him. Thank you, Eugene, for making the time. You're a groovy dude, and we'll get back to you next month, as we always do.
You got it. Thank you, guys.